The bus to Ramallah had to stop at an Israeli checkpoint between two hills, a place called Uyun al-Haramiyya. There had never been a day when soldiers hadn't been stationed at this spot. First it was the British soldiers, after them the Jordanian soldiers, and now here we have the Israeli soldiers. Yassin knew all of this. "One day we will have a checkpoint here," Naim said. "Can you see how grand our ambitions are now?" Yassin retorted. They ordered the passengers off the bus. Then a soldier boarded it and walked the length of the aisle until he reached the long back seat. Then, from inside, he looked back out at the faces of the passengers lined up on the tarmac, looking for any expression other than indifference. The soldier got off the bus and circled around the passengers, stopping beside an attractive young girl to stare at her. He walked a few steps, then stopped again. Turning, he signalled to 3 other soldiers, observing the scene from 15 metres away, to come closer. As they approached, he walked to the end of the line of passengers and stopped by Yassin and Naim, signalling to Naim to step forward. Naim knew all about checkpoints. He knew every one. From his earliest days there had been in his face waiting for him. From experience, he knew that at this time of day the soldiers liked to toy with the passengers for their own entertainment, to treat them as their playthings. The heat at 4:30 in the afternoon was enough to ignite the air between the two hills. Yassin took a look at the line of cars piling up behind the bus. A person needed no superpowers to hear the silent curses emanating from their eyes. The body language that betrayed a frustration with everything around them. "Come!" the soldier barked at Naim, who hadn't moved. The soldier stopped directly in front of the attractive young girl, and there behind him now stood Naim. The soldier turned, looked at Naim, then looked back at the young girl. "Do you want the bus to pass?" he asked Naim. Naim nodded in affirmation. "If you want the bus to pass, you have to kiss her," the soldier said, pointing at the girl. A glimmer lit up in the soldier's eyes. They liked this game. It enthused them. The passengers, by contrast, looked at one another bemused. As for the young girl, the whole thing was like a shock to her. A car horn behind the bus broke the silence for a moment. "Who's that khmar beeping?" yelled the game master. Heading back towards the car, the driver tried in vain to convince him that the horn had gone off by accident. But the soldier insisted that the car leave the long queue, turn around, and go back to where it came, Nablus. "If you want to sleep the night here, then stay, or you can go back to Nablus, but there is no Ramallah for you today. Understood?" A few minutes later, the car and its passengers were heading away from the checkpoint, back to the other checkpoint they had just left behind. The 3 kids looking out of the back window, trying to figure out what had just happened. The game master turned back to Naim and said, "Do you think it's over? It's up to you. You Palestinians are always talking about making independent decisions. Well, if you want the bus to pass and for the cars behind it to pass, then do as I say." The young girl poked her head above the surface. Until this point, she had been submerged in a lake of shame. With eyes pregnant with tears, she looked at Naim, who looked as if he were in an even bigger lake of his own. Admittedly, for all of his acknowledgement of checkpoints, he'd never contemplated a scenario like this. He looked to his friend Yassin, finding him lost as if he were in a daze. Just before Naim turned back to face the soldier, Yassin locked eyes with him for a moment. Then the soldier pressed him. "Have you decided?" "I won't do what you ask." "I told you, you're free, Habibi. Don't kiss if you don't want to kiss, but if you and the others do want to pass through here, then kiss her." Then as he walked away, he added, "Don't move from there. Stay put." In front of the checkpoint, the soldiers were giggling to themselves, rummaging for change in their pockets and passing it around. They began placing bets on whether he would kiss her or not. "He will kiss her," the game master said as he pulled some cash from his pocket and flung it on the sandbags. The sun was beginning to set, and the passengers felt like they were suspended in time. The soldier approached Naim again and asked, "Have you decided yet?" "I won't do as you ask." And so the rifle butt struck his thigh. Everyone heard the thud on his femur before he fell to the ground, only for the soldier's jackboot to follow up, landing in his stomach. "We're busy here. I told you, if you want to kiss her, you'll pass. If not, you sleep here." "I won't do as you ask." The soldiers protested this foul play by the game master. His use of violence would change the outcome of the bet, but he was deaf to their complaints. Another blow came. Naim tried to dodge it, but there was no escape. Blood spurted from his forehead. The soldier walked away. Things felt like they were about to explode. The lined-up passengers were getting restless as they watched the scene without being able to move. Passengers from several of the cars and buses had disembarked on either side of the road. Now the guns turned to them. The soldiers ordered them back to their cars. In a turn that no one saw coming, the young girl bent down by the man on the ground in front of her, took his hand, and whispered, "Kiss me, I beg you." Naeem looked up at the passengers again. They were staring at the ground, trying not to be there. He kissed her on the right cheek. As his lips met her face, several of the soldiers whooped, as if they were cheering for a winning goal scored by their team, while others grumbled in disapproval.